Hi class. In the last video, you reviewed how to run a correlation. Everyone in this class is running a correlation between your two main psychological constructs. Now, for your third variable analysis, this might differ if you are choosing your third variable based off of a demographic where there's only two groups or not. So if you are looking at groups where you only have two categories, you will be running a t-test. If you have three or more, that's going to be something else, and we'll talk about that later, but still watch this video. If you are looking at how groups differ, for example, via gender, and you're only looking at male and female, some of you might be choosing to do male, female, non-binary, other, prefer not to answer. Those are more than two, so you're going to not be running a t-test. But if you are doing gender and you're only using two categories such as male and female, you will be using this test. Now, this is the same data from the data set that I uploaded for you and from the previous videos that I recorded. I just removed the Rosenberg self-esteem inventory and age. I believe that was the other one that was on there. So on here, you just have the narcissism scores and gender. So of course, narcissism scores based off of the NPI. If you are, so I'm looking at gender and narcissism, but if you wanted to look at whether your participants are, like part-time students versus full-time students, which only has two categories, you can do that too. I can't remember some of the other third variables that you guys had mentioned you wanted to do off the top of my head, but two categories, right? So, I believe somebody wanted to do athletes versus non-athletes. You could do that as well. So what you're having to do is make sure in Excel that you place these two columns right next to each other, so gender and NPI scores. Remember that I told you in Excel, you cannot run data analysis on anything that is qualitative. You can only run it on quantitative numbers, but this will help you stay organized. So still put it side by side so that you know what participant recorded what score. Okay, so I think the different ways that you can do this are you can actually just copy and paste your data, but I just went in and deleted the two columns that were in between. So that was, I believe it was age and Rosenberg self-esteem scores. So whichever you want to do is fine based off of what you had practiced with in stats class. Okay, so when we are running our t-test, what you want to do is, of course, firstly, make sure that you have the data tool pack or statistics tool pack added in. So that would be right here. You only had to do that once. If you followed along with the correlation video or the descriptives video, you would have already added it. Okay, so from here, you're going to go to data, and then you're going to click on data analysis. And then you will move this, you will scroll down to the bottom where it says the t-test. And here you will see that there are three different t-tests. For this example, you are going to do a two sample assuming unequal variances. Two sample meaning there's two groups, male and female, if that's how you're choosing to run your data. And then assuming unequal variances, meaning you think or you're assuming that there's going to be a difference between male and female and scores of narcissism personality inventory. So click on unequal. Honestly, if you did click on the two sample assuming equal variances, the formulas are pretty similar, so it might be okay. Just you are not selecting this first one that says paired two sample for means. Just select the t-test two sample assuming unequal variances. Click OK. You'll notice that this is different from correlation because there are two input boxes now because you have two groups. So variable 1 is going to refer to what you want to be in your group 1. And it doesn't actually matter what order you do it in, you just have to remember which group you put in variable 1. So if you wanted to do females for group 1, then organize it like this. If you want to do males for group 1, then just remember which one you did or write it down. I always write it down because I cannot rely on my own memory. Since I'm looking at gender differences, male versus female, I have to know which, not just me, myself and you will need to know which score is for females and which are for males. That's why it's important to have this column right next to it so that you can see. For participant in row 2, they are female, they have this score of 44, so on and so forth. Down here at participant number 40, male, score 44. So you'll see that for me, my data is already organized. This is very rare that this will actually happen with the way that your respondents reply to your survey. So you will have to clean this data yourself. I say clean, I just mean organize. Now, if you, if you're going to do it the way that I do it, I'm really old school and I just go and I cut and paste. But I know that there are ways to do this that's much faster by sorting. If you go onto like Google and just Google how to do that, or if you remember from stats and you know how to do this very easily, you could go ahead and do that. I'm just a big time waster. And I didn't record it because it was already, I've been using this data set already and it was already in the order that I wanted it to be. So from here, you're going to grab the numbers only, not the label. So in the previous video, we took the labels, but you're not doing that here. For here, you're just only going to grab the numbers. That means click. You'll see the broken rectangle box and drag. Go ahead and drag this all the way down to where the last female participant scores are and let go. So that is for your variable 1 range. Again, just remember or take notes on what you're putting into which variable range. Now you want to click on this box for variable 2 range so that you don't mess up your data. So make sure that your cursor is blinking over here, whatever this is called. And now you go back to your data set, select the first male participant, and then click, drag, and then drop. All right, so that should be selected for variable 2. You'll see the ranges from the cells that are highlighted. Now, this is blank right now, but for hypothesized mean difference, you're going to click on that so that you can see, again, the cursor is blinking. And then you're going to put input 0. Is that a 0 or no? Sorry, I just want to make double sure. Okay, so input 0, and you are not going to check this labels box because you did not select any labels. That's important for a reason. So this is different instructions from the last video that I had. So from here, you go on and, sorry, I should probably explain. But anyways, you're going to make sure that the hypothesized mean difference is at a 0 because your hypothesized mean difference is based on the null hypothesis. So here you're going to click OK. And my computer's a bit slow, but this pops up. Let me make it a little bit easier to see. Okay. So you'll see here that it doesn't matter which group goes into variable 1 or variable 2. You just have to remember which one you select it to be in variable 1, right? So if you did what I did in variable 1, you might have selected that to be for females. That's what I did. So I'm actually going to go in, click on this, and change this to reflect that this was the group that was females. And then click on variable 2. Because I did males for variable 2, go in, I'm going to go in and type in males to cleanly label the output. So here you can see that the mean scores you can see for both females and males on narcissism, on their narcissism scores. And then you'll also see the variances. If you wanted to find out the standard deviation, it's just square root of the variance, right? Okay, so with a t-test, you are also going to create some kind of visual depiction, but it's not going to be a scatter plot this time. This time it's going to be a bar graph. So remember, when you run a t-test, you will create a bar graph. To do this, go in and click Insert. I'm just going to show you how to do it first. So Insert, just so you're familiar with where everything is on your Excel. And under Insert, you're going to go and look for Charts right here. And at the very top of my Excel sheet, or my Excel add-ins, you'll see that there's a bar graph right here. And then before I actually click on this, because in Excel, we actually have to go and select the data first, I'm going to show you, I just wanted to show you where this is in charts. Okay, so come back to your data, grab your data first. Now, because we were looking for the female mean score for narcissism and the male mean score for narcissism, you're only going to select those 4 boxes. So female for mean variance, or sorry, for mean was 38.68, and then for males, it was 38.83. Select these 4, click on that, and then now you can go into your Insert, click on Insert, go over to Charts, bar graph, just looks like a bar graph. I don't know how else to explain it. Click on that. You're going to select the first one under 2D column, and then you'll see it pop up, but just click on that and it is here. So the reason why you went in, you labeled your variance 1 and your variance 2 is because now it is going to be automatically input into your bar graph. How nice and easy is that, right? And it's also very organized. On chart title, you click on this and you'll want to label this so that it's clear for you. It's also clear for the reader, which will be me. So for the chart title, you're going to name it exactly on what you ran it. So you could type in, what you did was you looked at the differences between gender in narcissism in your study. So you can name it gender differences. I don't know if I'm spelling this right. Differences. And I'm definitely going to spell this wrong. Narcissism. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but definitely spell check before you publish your graph, before you put this into your own paper. Okay, so click out and it looks nice and neat just like that. You'll see, like, you should have learned in stats how bar graphs can be misleading. These numbers are actually very, very close. So just kind of keep that in mind. But for that's all you need. I just need you to have the actual graphical depiction when you do your paper project, your final project, and then write it in your paper. So for t-test, you only have 2 groups. You're not highlighting any nominal variables. You're trying to find the psychological variables in which you want to find the gender differences if you're going along with what we did in this example. So, or whatever it is that your 3rd variable will be. So far for this data set, you have done study on narcissism and self-esteem, and you found that it was significant and then you wanted to find out why or maybe how this had happened. Maybe you wanted to know just a little bit more. So you had an idea that you think gender may be an influence on your psychological constructs. So you chose that to be your third variable. And then you ran a t-test looking at how gender differences might have played a role on narcissism. Notice I'm not using the word cause, but played a role, right? Or maybe you wanted to calculate, if you wanted to do this on self-esteem, you could have done that on the self-esteem scores as well. Now, when you run a t-test, you have to do it one at a time. So unfortunately, you can't, do both gender on narcissism and self-esteem at the same time. You'd have to do them separate, and that's okay. Now that you know how to do it, or now that you remember how to do it, you can go and run a separate t-test on gender differences in self-esteem based off of your data. If you run, or if you have 3 groups or more, you cannot do a t-test. You will have to do an f-test or ANOVA. So I'll make another video for that. I just wanted this one to be a little bit more short, since I know that I can talk on and on and on. I'm going to end it right here, and hopefully this was very clear and you know how to do a t-test again, or at least you remember how to do a t-test again.